contest. The article I chose was authored by Epstein, Milan, and Nitzan in 2010. It was a working paper, so by these authors there have been published several papers that led up to this topic. And also afterwards there were also other papers basing on this topic. Does that? Or no, maybe
I suppose you have to write it over the... I don't know.
It might also help if we had this
so this is my, no, this is not, this is my agenda, so I'll give you an introduction to the topic, then we come to the main point of the article. We will talk about contest design, about two contest success functions, so the all-pay option and the logic CSF. Then we'll talk about optimal discrimination, and of course there will be a conclusion in the end. So, introduction. The objective of the study was to find out how political culture and valuation asymmetry affect discrimination between contestants. So the basic idea was that economic and political decisions are based on strategic contests for a driven price. So the contest outline is driven by the political background of the contest designer. So the basic structure is that we have a contest with a price, and we have a contest designer who has power over the elements of the contest, which are the contest price, the set of contestants, the structure, if it's multi-stage contest or just one-stage contest, and also about the contest success function, where the contest is based on. So basically, contest is a very abstract word. So I'll give you an example here. Suppose there is a job opening in the public sector which needs to be publicly announced. So basically everyone who is attracted to that job offer has the same chances. This is basically the contest. So, and there are specific required necessary conditions for you to fulfill the needs of the job offer. These are our contest requirements. And then we have the bureaucrat, and he determines the requirements of the job offer. And because he can manipulate the contest in that manner that he gives an applicant an advantage if he says to him, well, we would like an applicant that has more financial background. So he basically gives a group of people or just one of the contestants, applicants, an advantage over the other. Of course, this is not a certainty of winning, but it states a bias of him. And because he has the power over manipulating the contest, he is the designer of the contest, because he has power over the requirements and he can also manipulate the contest. So what we need to know before we start, that we will talk a lot about discrimination, which is here an endogenous variable. And it's characterizing the mechanism of allocating the price. And also there are two types of contest success function. These are supposed to be the most widely studied of them, although I've never heard of them. Might not matter, but and this paper, the reasons why this paper is so new and different is because it adds discrimination to the contest designer's toolbox, so it enhances the interest of the contest designer. Also, it applies the more general objective function, which we will see in the following, to study the relationship between the discrimination and political culture, and it compares these two most widely studied type of contest success functions. So contest success function will be shortly CSF and the following. So the main point of this whole paper is to basically say that the all-pay auction CSF is always the superior CSF compared to the other type, which is the logit CSF. And the design of the contest is determined by the political culture of the designer. So he chooses the design of being able to favor one of the contestants. Also, we will see that the high motivated contestant is driven by his evaluation of the price, whereas the low motivated contestant is driven by the cost of the efforts he has to make to get the price. So we will talk about the optimal contest design, which the designer has to choose. It's a one-stage contest with two contestants, 1 and 2. 1 is the high motivated, and 2 is the low motivated. I is the price evaluation of the contestants, and this equation here guarantees that there's no loss of generality. And then we will see this. So the first equation we see here is about the expected net of payoff of the contestant. So what we see here, the PRI X1, X2 is the price evaluation. It's the general CSF, I'm sorry. So PRXI2 is the general CSF, and we've seen before that N1 is the price evaluation of the contest, and now we combine the expected net payoff of the contestant with Y and 1 minus Y, which are the weights assigned to the expected social welfare. So there's a weight put on the expected social welfare, which gives us the objective function of the contest designer, which we will work with in the following. So the designer is assumed to maximize this function by setting the contest success function given the Nash equilibrium efforts of the contestants. So his particular choice of the CSF together with the corresponding efforts of the contestants constitute the equilibrium of the contest. So whether there is a contest or not is up to the designer. If there is no contest, he would just give the prize to the higher motivated contestant and it's over. If he chooses to have a contest, it's up to the equation actually whether the contest is completely fair in favor of one of the other. Also, we assume that the designer has perfect information about how much the prize is worth to either one of the contestants. So we will come to one of the two contest success functions. So sigma is here our discrimination variable, and if this is bigger than 0, this is actually what our all-pay function look like. So what we can assume out of that is that a reduction in sigma increases the bias in favor of the more motivated contestants. If sigma equals 0, 1 is the certain winner, so the high motivated contestant is the certain winner. It's an extreme bias, and if sigma equals 1, the contest is fair because it puts a higher weight on contestant 1. So there's no bias if sigma is 1. And if sigma is bigger than 1, the bias is in favor of contestant 2. So the contest designer maximizes his objective function by setting the discrimination variable, so given the contest success function and what he thinks is the Nash equilibrium efforts of the contestants. If we look at the logit CSF, this whole function looks a little bit more difficult. But the basic thing is that with sigma bigger than 0, this is actually what we get. And alpha is the effort of real unit investment on the winning probability of a contestant. The basic thing we have to know here is that only when y is bigger than 0.5, no contest is held and the prize is awarded to the contest with the higher price valuation, so to the person the prize has a higher worth to. And when there is a contest, the exogenous variables like y and also k are the affecting parameters. So but the effect is not very transparent because it has contrasting effect on the objective function of the designer. So when we go along, we will see that, as stated in the beginning, the all-pay option is superior. So when we come to the matter of optimal discrimination, we will see here that this is our function of the all-pay option, and the content is deterministic. So if we have low values of y, s, and k, the designer is in favor of contestant 2, and if we have high values of y, sigma, and k, the contest is in favor of contestant 1. To set the optimal bias, if the designer sets the optimal bias, where sigma equals k, it eliminates the advantage of contestant 1, so it makes it a fair contest. And this also maximizes the utility of the designer. If we have optimal discrimination with a logit CSF, this is what we have. And basically under logic CSF there is no discrimination if we have the same, if the political culture, which is named YE, is the same as sigma equals 1. So the designer's utility is more strongly affected by the performance of contestant 1 than of contestant 2. And if we have y being bigger than ye, so the political culture, and 1 bigger than sigma, and sigma being bigger than 1, and but smaller than k alpha, it's our maximum where the contestant 2 is favored. And if it's the other way around, it's the maximum where contestant 1 is favored. So basically, in the all-pay auction, the optimal bias has 2 values. Either it's sigma equaling to k, or it's sigma equaling to 0. And the bias in favor of contestant 2 is always larger or equal to this bias under the logic CSF. So there is no way contestant 2 is worse off with the all-pay option. And the complete bias of 1 under the all-pay option requires the assignment of a larger weight onto the utility. In this paper, there were also 2 other propositions made to kind of get along, but it wasn't really relevant to the point made in the paper, so we will just skip that here. And to underline the superiority of the all-pay action, so from these equations and the explanation I just made, we get that the all-pay option is always the superior CSF during the contestant. And for any Y the contestants design or choose, its utility is always larger than or equal in the all-pay option than under the legit CSF. So there is no way his utility can be worse off if he chooses the legit CSF contestant function, because the all-pay option CSF emerges an equilibrium strategy. So the designer chooses the type and therefore the nature of the contestant success function, which basically comes down to being like the bias in favor of one of the contestants. So the conclusion is, as we said before, the contest designer's utility is basically larger than or equal to its utility under the logic CSF. And the basic point here is that political culture and price valuation are explanatory facts for understanding discrimination in different societies. And as stated in the beginning, the high motivated contestant is driven by his evaluation of the price, and the low motivated contestant is driven by the cost of the effort. So if he has low efforts, then he's more motivated. Yeah, and basically, that's it.